Hey friends, welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we've got a schnitzel for you. No, it's not a good piece of meat with a nice crust on it, but it is a knife from Germany, and it's a knife designed for kids. It's just over 3 inches on the blade. We've got G10 handle scales. This knife comes in 3 G10 colors. We've got blue, we've got an electric neon green kind of color, and we've got orange. And you can pick whichever one you want. We've got a Kydex sheath, and it's a little bit lower on the waist style sheath, which I highly prefer. And a little belt slab here, a little belt loop here. 2-inch belt fits in there, no problem at all. And Kydex grip fit. So if you're looking for a knife like this, you probably have some young person in your life, and you want to give them their first knife. That's what this knife is for. We'll talk about the details, but it's got a safety tip, but a very nice edge, decent steel, very good price, and you can get it worldwide. Of course, a little more shipping to get it to North America than a lot of other knives, but the starting price on this thing, I think you're going to be surprised. So stick around. The review of the Schnitzel UNU is coming right now. So here's the Schnitzel. Take a look at that blade shape, and I'm going to talk about the sheath a little bit on the side. We've got Kydex. It's thin, light Kydex. Helps make it a very light carry. Brand name Schnitzel is in, they used heat to, I think, probably melt that, or some laser. Well, yeah, it's laser etched. Yeah, it looks laser etched in there, and that's all the writing there is. There's a couple screws here to screw on the belt loop. And so if you're a person who likes to carry this knife higher up on the waist, you can take these screws out. They're just T8 screws, I think. Didn't even check it yet. Yep, they're T8. You can take it apart and turn it around. There you go. Holds on tight, and you have a little higher carry. Some people like knives higher on the waist. Some people like them lower. And this thing, gives you the option. There's the orange one, by the way, of, it's going to distract, isn't it? The sheath 2 different ways. So if we line up the belt loop holes, that's the different heights. Let's lift this up just a little bit for a minute. Those are the different heights that it's going to sit. If we've got a pair of pants here, that's a little too close to the camera, but it could be hanging down like this. That's because that's where the belt goes. Or it would be way up high on the hip. So that's a non-advertised feature, kind of like that. They've got a little piece of lanyard. It matches the color of the G10. That's neither here nor there for me. The knife has good retention in here. Checked all of them. It's no noise. Holds on nice and tight. It's got a little bit of a thumb ramp right there to push against to get the knife out. So it's made for children, but it functions the same way as adult knives do. They're learning the same way to use a knife, or at least to carry a knife, as everybody else as an adult would. And then the knife is in good enough condition. It's made well enough that they'll learn how they can. If you teach them, learn how to use a knife very safely and very well. By the way, this is my base sharpening job. It's not a mirror sharpening job, although you might get some mirror glints off of it. So I've sharpened the knife just to see how well it works compared to the out-of-the-box experience, and also to see how well their 8CR13 MOV sharpens. That's the steel that they're using, and it behaved just like other 8CR13. It doesn't feel any softer than other 8CR13 MOV. It feels like well-made 8CR13 MOV, which is a good budget steel. No problems with it at all. We've got a stonewash finish, full flat grind, great big belly here, and a straight section. And we've got a tip that is round. It's a safety tip. You can take the knife and accidentally bump into something, certainly not on purpose, but if you accidentally bump on something, chances are low that it's going to do serious damage, unless the belly starts to slice or something. It's just a good learning thing for kids when they're learning to use a knife, because even adults, when they're using knives, sometimes when we're cutting through something, either that thing gives suddenly or the knife slips for some reason. You see, I cut myself there. That was just a dumb move, but even people who are very experienced with knives sometimes cut themselves. And preventing the puncture kind of accident is a good step in a child's learning how to use knives safely. The knife is, it's got a straight back, and then the handle dips away. So if we put this along a straight line, let's put that, there you go. You can see with those lines on this texture back here, that's straight, and then it dips away. That's about a 5-degree dip. It's just a comfortable way for a knife to be held. The G10 is rounded everywhere, and it's flat on the sides. Kids often need things that feel a little bit big in the hand just to give them more security. They don't have the finger strength that we do, so they rely on hand strength as well to hold things. And the hand shape here is just, handle shape is just perfect. It's great for young kids, and it works for adults. I cut through a whole bunch of cardboard with this 8CR13, and it cut just like I expected it to. Sharp from the factory and cut well. The grind angles, they're a little bit odd, not quite as matching one side to the other as I would hope, but they did give it a sharp edge, and it cuts well. So kids can really learn a lot on one of these knives. You want to see what it looks like taken apart? Well, I took apart the green one just before I turned the camera on. You can see a little bit of oil residue in there, so there was oil in there. And this is just exactly how it is. So it's a little bit dirty in there from that, but that's how the knife looks. The cut it out, and it's got that shape. So skeletonizing in here to make the balance perfect on it, and then the 2 holes, for the screws. It didn't want to turn. I did have to use 1 screwdriver on either side for one of them, and for the other one I didn't. But they're sort of free turning, so it is best to use 2 screwdrivers, and then you won't slip and start to wreck the end of your screw. There's no sharp edges anywhere except for the one you want. We've got a little bit of a guard. You can see it coming down like that, which is plenty. It's a good amount of guard. It makes it safer, less chance of them slipping their hand over. So that's well done. You've got a designer's mark right up there. And then you've got 8CR13 MOV on this side. And on this side, it's just Schnitzel on the blade. Sharpness choil's not quite as big as it should be. We've got a sort of radius plunge right there. And the sharpness choil is on this one here, this green one, is just barely too small. On this blue one here, it turned out the way they sharpened exactly like the green one. This orange one, you could see that they sharpened up the plunge a little bit. And so that's sort of the danger if your sharpness choil is just a little bit on the small side. You tend to sharpen up into the plunge. But this is a low budget knife. This is not an expensive knife at all, so I don't begrudge that at all. Some of you guys are going to be balking at the safety tip. Buy a different knife. It's really that simple. But if you want a safety knife for someone, I think these are a really good choice. So there is a need for these kinds of knives, not just for children, but for other scenarios, but those are pretty minor. And what happens when the child grows up? Let's say you've only got one child and they've got a knife like this. What happens when they grow up? Well, you can do two different things. You can start to sharpen right up to the tip. You could grind this, make it a little tiny bit of a clip point if you wanted to. Just don't overheat the blade because then you lose your temper. Or you get them one of these, also by Schnitzel. This is the Do. It's got a Scandi grind. It's got jimping. It's got a striker spot for the ferrocerium rod. That's in the sheath, which is optional. You can take it off if you want to. This is not just a one trick pony here. Schnitzel's already made two knives. They've got other designs in their works. They're working on stuff for gear for kids, outdoor gear. So this makes a really good first knife. The Do would make a very good second knife. Maybe you've got some kids in your life that, this isn't quite for them, but maybe the Do is. You try that. The Do is a little more money. It's got better steel, 14C28N on there. So check that out as well. I've got links for where you can get these. Let's go over the sizes. Let's go over all of the dimensions and things, and I'll leave this on the screen while I do that. 8CR13 MOV stainless steel. Schnitzel has their factory in China that they're using to harden this to about 56 to 58. So let's say 57 Rockwell hardness is what it probably is. And the weight of this thing, the knife with the G10, 102 grams, 3.6 ounces. A knife with the sheath and the little piece of paracord, just the way it comes all together, 131 grams, 4.6 ounces. So the sheath is just 1 little ounce. Let's talk about dimensions. The cutting edge length, so it's a diagonal line all the way along from where it starts being sharp to the sharpness choil, 7.9 centimeters, 3.11 inches. The distance from the G10 to the furthest piece of steel, 7.8 centimeters, 3.071. So, and all three of them were very close to the same, just a tiniest bit over 3 inches. The blade thickness now, and that's up here on the ricasso and the flats, 3.12 millimeters, 0.123 inches. So the tiniest hair under 1/8 of an inch. The blade depth, I measured about 1 inch up from the sharpness choil, so where my thumbnails are, 2.47 centimeters, 0.972 of an inch, so about 1 inch, not bad. Gives a lot of support to that edge. The thickness of the edge behind the grind at that same spot, 0.47 millimeters, 18.5 thousandths of an inch. I don't mind that at all. That's very well done. The grind angles. The grind angles that Schnitzel is asking the factory to sharpen these to is 16 degrees per side. So that's 36 degrees inclusive. This is the best one of the bunch. 15 degrees on one side, and the other side was 24.1 degrees on this side. So, it's not perfect. It's, a budget knife. This is a well-made budget knife, and it's inevitable. The grind angles are off from one side to another. If you've ever looked at my spreadsheet that I've got listed down below, and it's public for anybody, I've reviewed now over 160 knives that I've put through that list. Every time the grind angle is different from one side to another. And it's often 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 degrees different. This guy, the difference was about 9 degrees difference per side, which is not great, but it's not terrible. The orange one, I sharpened myself, and so I had to take off a little more steel on one side than I had to take off from the other side to help to even that out. But that's, like I said, it happens all over the place with almost every knife that I've reviewed. Now for the rest of the numbers, the handle length, 9.06 centimeters, 3.567 of an inch. And so the grip area inside here, it's a little over 8 centimeters, right around 3.2, 3.25 inches. Handle thickness is 1.4 centimeters, 0.551 of an inch. I like that because you do want it thicker, like I was saying before, for kids' hands. the way they work. Some people might think, oh, it needs to be smaller because there's smaller versions. They're not adult hands made smaller. They are children's hands, which are different than adults' hands, and so thicker is good. The handle depth, it's biggest back here, 2.62 centimeters, 1.0315 inches. The total length of this knife is 16.9, which is 6 5/8. So it's not a super tiny knife, because I think kids deserve knives that are as close to full size for them. And I think this is a very good choice. It's well made, it looks good, it feels good, it's comfortable. Would I do any changes on it? I think I would put some very gentle jimping here on the spine of the blade. Not as aggressive as it is here on the Do. Like, that is more aggressive. This is actually a small adult knife, if you really ask me. It very much is the adult spec, completely 100%, just a little bit smaller. So, but this guy, yeah, a little bit of jimping is what I'd like. And, just to give it a little more grip. I don't miss the lanyard hole at all. Don't use lanyards usually. Some other tiny things, you are going to get some Kydex transfer on the rub points. That's just the nature of the way Kydex works. And on a budget knife like this, I don't mind at all. You can see a little bit of black transfer right there. And, it just happens. That's the nature of it. I like that you can take it apart easily to clean it. The only other thing I wish they'd change is maybe a tiny bit bigger sharpener's choil. But I can remedy that myself too. Not a problem. So, what do you think of a knife like this? Well, I think you're wondering about the price. You're not quite sure if you like it or not yet. 23.39 euros is how much one of these costs. That's about 27.75 American, about 36.33 Canadian, about 20.95 British pounds. That's not bad. But then you have to consider shipping. It's best if you buy multiple of these if you want one. If you live in North America, at least I would think. I'm hoping a North American distributor comes online soon. That would really help things out. But you can also buy it from Amazon.de. That's Germany, direct from Amazon Germany. Yeah, they'll ship to America. They'll ship to Canada. They'll ship just about anywhere. And I'll leave links down below. If you're going to buy 3, 4, or 5, or a bunch of knives, that 35 euros for shipping is all the way up to 5 kilograms. So you could get a box of these knives, if you've got a big family like I do, and you find a lot of different people to give one to. And then the shipping is very reasonable, if you bought 6 or 7 or 8 of them. I think for the price, this is totally a great deal. I like the Mora with the wooden handle. It's got a tiny little guard on it, but it's a different experience. I think this handle is more comfortable than the Mora. I'd like to show you and compare it directly, but I've already gave that one away, so I can't compare it. But I like this for large part because we've got flat sides, which makes it easy for kids to learn indexing. By that I mean they know exactly which way that edge is facing all the time. On a more rounded handle, even if it's sort of oval, you're not always exactly sure. And this is a good instinct for kids to learn with knives. And these flat sides will help them learn the instinct of knowing, or the muscle memory of where that edge is. So thanks for watching this little video. If you want them, check the links down below. Share this video with friends. I'm sure you know somebody who maybe they're not even really into knives that much, but they, could use something for their kids. This is a really good idea. So thank you so much, my friends, for watching my video. Please share it with somebody. Share it? Yeah, share it with somebody, please. And thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing as well. A big thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. Remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.